Welcome to Show's World Gamers, Josh here, and today I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch online service. Specifically, I want to talk about the Super Nintendo games that are available and count down the 10 games I really hope Nintendo adds to the service in the future. There are so many good games on this system. For a long time, I considered this being my personal favorite console of all time because of the fantastic library of games. Now, I'm not complaining about the games currently represented, as there are some of the greatest games ever from some of gaming's biggest franchises. Games like the Super Mario games on the system, Super Metroid, the Donkey Kong Country games, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past are just a few. There are also some hidden gems, games I really like, games like Demon's Crest, the Joe and Matt games, and Stunt Race FX. We even have the unreleased Star Fox 2 on there. There are some games people have been disappointed we got instead of other games, but games like Congo Escapers, Super Valis 4, and Poppin' Twin B, I enjoyed discovering for the first time. But what games do I really think Nintendo needs to add to their service? Well, I'm going to give my thoughts on 10 of them. Now, I tried to keep my list filled with games I feel could realistically have a chance to make it on the service. I left out games like the Final Fantasy games because Square Enix is currently in the process of releasing pixel remasters of all those games, and I expect those will be released on the Switch at some point. Also, as usual, there's no sports games because of licensing issues, which is a shame because I would love to play Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball on the Switch. Alright gamers, let's get to the list, and we are going to start with a genre that I think owes a lot of its popularity, especially in the US, to the games released on the Super Nintendo. From the Final Fantasy games, to less known games like Seventh Saga and the Lufia series, to weird games like Earthbound. Turn-based role-playing games really found their footing on the system, with amazing games. Now, the first game on the list is what I consider my favorite turn-based RPG of all time, and probably the most requested game not on the service, and that is Chrono Trigger. This is one of the most beloved games of all time, and if you haven't played it, you would be in for an absolute treat if you fired up this masterpiece. The next game can be a pretty hard sell to those who didn't play it back in the day because it sounds ridiculous. But Uniracers is so much fun. You race around loops and jumps, pulling off tricks on a rail, controlling a unicycle. It's weird, it's quirky, and it is a lot of fun. The next game comes from what I would consider one of the best fighting game series of all time. It was the first home release in the series. Killer Instinct was awesome. It played so much differently than any other fighting game at the time. From the first time I popped a quarter in the arcade version, I instantly became a huge fan, trying to learn every move, every combo, and of course, those awesome ultra combos. The fourth game on my list was another one of those quirky games that spawned copycat games for years to come. I really enjoyed the Lemmings games on the Super Nintendo. The series debut was on PC, but my first introduction to the puzzle strategy game was on the Super Nintendo, and would love a chance to revisit those experiences on the Switch. Next up was one of those series-defining games on a storied franchise. Super Castlevania 4 was an instant classic when it was released. With its huge character models and at the time stunning visuals, this game really pushed the series to the next level and is a must-play for any Castlevania fan. Next up is Contra 3: The Alien Wars. Now, this game I don't feel gets the same notoriety as the original NES's Contra, but that's a shame. Personally, I think to this day this is still the best game in the franchise and one of the best co-op games of all time. Speaking of co-op games, nothing screams co-op in the 90s like the classic beat-em-up genre. While I don't think we will see the likes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time on the service, one, if not all of the Final Fight games would be an amazing addition. The character models on this game were big, which allowed some really good pixel art at the time, and the games were a lot of fun. Bust a Move is the next game I would love to see added to the service. There is a ton of clones of this game on cell phones, but having the original SNES version would be a great addition. Puzzle games are always great to go back to, and this series is a lot of fun. Now, we already have one fighting game on this list, but I feel this genre is definitely unrepresented on the service. Fighting games took the world by storm in the 90s, and Clay Fighter was a weird but fun addition to the genre that can still, to this day, be a lot of fun to play. The last of our 10 was one of the original launch games for the Super Nintendo in the US. Gradius 3 was a lot of fun and one of the most iconic shooters in video game history. This genre really tested the skills of gamers, and Gradius 3 is a must-play. Alright gamers, this was my list for the 10 games Nintendo needs to add to the Nintendo Switch online service for the Super Nintendo. Like I said, this is one of the greatest consoles of all time, and this is just a tip of an incredibly large iceberg of high-quality, fun games Nintendo could choose from. What games do you want to see? Let me know in the comments. Also subscribe, as I will probably make a part 2 with more games Nintendo should consider for the service. Also, like and share this video. Thanks for joining me today, gamers. Shoge World out.